Welcome to the Introduction to Transfer Pricing. This is a series of short videos on transfer pricing fundamentals. Today's topic is some of the rules for picking comparables for a comparable profits method or a transactional net margin method. The very first rule for picking comparables is to pick comparables that are driven by the same economic forces that are driving the profitability of the tested party. Therefore, when these economic forces change and affect profitability, it will hopefully have the exact same effect on the tested parties and the comparables in a similar manner. If you don't do this, then the arm's length range of the comparables may be moving in a different cycle than that of the tested party. What you want is a situation in which whatever happens, whatever factors can affect profitability, you want it to affect both the comparables and the tested party in a similar way, so that what we have isolated is the difference between them is only the pricing and the related party transaction, the transfer price, which is what we're trying to document as reasonable. Now, this rule doesn't mean, though, that comparables have to be from the exact same industry, although if you could find that, that would probably be the optimal. So let's explore some examples and talk about some of the issues that might be involved. So, the connection between the industrial sectors you're choosing to search for your comparables. You want to consider this very carefully. I'm just going to talk about this in an example that's happening currently. Right now, the United States is experiencing an oil and gas production boom, and we're experiencing lower energy prices, which has been a positive for the economy. Well, the fact that we have an oil and gas boom moves over to other industries. So, for example, the higher production in the oil field leads to higher refining activity and lower output prices. We have a basic supply shock going on in our energy sector. And that has knock-on effects into the economy. Lower energy prices leads to lower fertilizer prices because petrochemicals are one of the large inputs inside making fertilizers. And that increase in petrochemicals lowers the price of fertilizers and therefore can increase the production in agriculture. So you can see when you're looking through industrial sectors, these are all being driven by the same economic force. It might be reasonable to be talking about using these as comparables. That said, you do want to be cognizant of there could be an economic factor that's going to affect one of these and not the other. So for example, even though oil prices might be going down and fertilizer prices are going down with them, if the agricultural sector experiences a severe drought, no amount of fertilizer is really going to help there. That could result in essentially that sector moving in a different way than say the oil field sector or the refining sector. So still, just because they're all connected doesn't mean you necessarily would have a situation where you'd want to include them all in your search. There's no set fast rules to consider here. I think it's things that people have to look at on a one-off basis to say what's the right search for this tested party at this point in time, given the facts and circumstances. Now, business cycles can be very important on different industries' results, and it ought to be taken into account that different industries can be more or less volatile moving with the business cycle. So, for example, household products as an industry tend to move with the business cycle. In fact, they have a beta of 1.01. So it would mean essentially if the economy rises 3%, you would generally expect the household products industry to rise 3%, and vice versa if it were falling. But not every industry moves exactly with the economy. Some of them have more volatility. So for example, building materials is a more volatile sector. If the economy goes up 3%, the building materials sector is likely to go up 4%. It's going to swing a little bit higher in the booms. It's also going to swing down a bit more in the busts. If we keep looking at some industries, the home construction sector has much greater volatility than, say, the household products. It has a beta of 1.7. So it's really going to swing up during booms and swing down a good bit more during the downturns. And that's important to know if you're trying to determine which ones would be comparable to the others. You would like things swinging with the same degree of volatility and by the same economic factors. Are these good comparables for another? Well, there's no definitive answer to that. In an economic boom or bust, the differences would probably be very apparent. But if the economy were in a relatively steady, moderate growth period, that cyclicality might not be so much of a problem. You have to use your judgment. For example, I would tend to think it might be feasible to think that, say, the wholesale distribution of building materials might be close enough to the wholesale distribution of household products in a steady economy that those two would be safe to line up together. I have a feeling that the home construction industry would not be close enough to either of them, and I would probably not want to use that unless there were no other comparables to turn to. I hope you've enjoyed this video about selecting comparables and the importance of considering the industrial sectors, how you're going to pick them, and what the relationships between them are. Thank you and have a good day.